We'd got on the sauce, we'd had a few drinks.
We'd have to have been living under a rock not to see the carnage that Pauline Hanson's One Nation went through last week, as they were the punching bag for the entire country. Middle Eastern media giant and Qatari-owned Al Jazeera released a documentary featuring hidden camera footage of private conversations held between Roger Muller, who posed as a gun rights activist, and key members of One Nation, James Ashby and Steve Dixon. But what are the mainstream media and political parties not telling us about the so-called scandal? First of all, there was no footage from anyone from One Nation asking for donations from the NRA. There were questionable things said by Steve Dixon about what they would do if they were to receive funding, but there was no actual discussions or suggestions of a deal between One Nation and the Al Jazeera operative, despite what everyone has been saying.
Sourcing technology, sourcing an understanding of how they operate, but never was it about seeking $20 million from the NRA.
On top of that, Pauline Hanson never said that Port Arthur was a conspiracy carried out by the government. She may have said there were questions about it, referring to the mainstream narrative that we have heard about Port Arthur over the years, but never did she actually say it was a conspiracy at all. So what do we have so far? A total nothing burger based on he said, she said, about private conversations that were had whilst out on the sauce.
We'd got on the sauce, we'd had a few drinks.
So what do we know about how the whole sting was set up in the first place? Peter Charlie, who has received extremely little news coverage as the mastermind behind the sting, is a former employee of the ABC who revealed that he has been working on the undercover operation for 4 years. 4 whole years. Why the hell was this even being done? He started a group headed by undercover reporter Robert Muller, pretending to be a gun enthusiast called Gun Rights Australia. They produced videos, film clips, and did interviews promoting guns and campaigned for weaker gun laws here in Australia.
Don't have our rights as gun owners diluted, and they've come out with legislation that picks on farmers. Gun crime has been decreasing at a steady rate.
So what the hell is this all about? The biggest question is, why the hell did this operation even take place? Pauline Hanson was so badly scrutinised about asking questions just about the Port Arthur massacre that it's clearly considered a crime by the mainstream establishment just to ask questions about these events. But here are some thoughts that I have. What could Al Jazeera want in trying to influence the public opinion of a small party in a country like Australia? Do their masters consider One Nation to be an influential voice against Islam in the West? Could it be that the mainstream Islamic establishment has a vested interest in controlling public opinion in countries with an increasing Muslim population? Why else would a foreign entity spend 4 years and probably upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars secretly setting up a sting to ruin One Nation? It is absolutely not a theory that spreading Islam is written into the framework of the religion itself. There have been many cases where Islamic communities and the leaders of their communities admit their loyalty is to Islam before country. If you could publicly ruin the credibility of a genuinely influential and effective voice like One Nation, would that also ruin the credibility of anyone who agrees with One Nation's anti-Islamic sentiments? Would anyone continue to take an anti-Islamic view seriously and lumped in with, "Oh, so you also think you should sell our country to the NRA then?" Don't believe me? This tactic was just used last week by Koshi against, guess who? Pauline Hanson. In one of the most disgusting interviews that I've ever witnessed personally, Koshi had the audacity to liken One Nation's policies to that of the manifesto of the Christchurch killer.
Pauline, this terrorist manifesto almost reads like One Nation, immigration and Muslim policy. Do you in any way feel complicit with this atrocity?
So are you someone who might have disagreed with Islam in the past? Guess what? You're the reason Christchurch happened. When you hear the usual politicians and tweeters arguing that One Nation tried to sell out our country, the hypocrisy is hard to take in. What do you think is worse? Do you think private conversations whilst out on the sauce,
We'd got on the sauce,
with an undercover rat who worked for 4 years to catch you on camera, hypothetically considering accepting funds from a like-minded organisation, which was bullshit in the first place? Or do you think a government-owned media giant meddling with another country's political affairs to deceptively manipulate public opinion for your own political gain? Let me know in the comments below.
we'd got on the sauce, we'd got on the sauce.
It got on the sauce.